Welcome back everyone, my name is Damien, and we're going to be going over some interesting stuff today. Specifically, we're going to be going over some stuff that I probably should have gone over earlier, but it never really fit in where I was going with these lessons. So we're going to start talking about strings. Strings are going to be how we do a lot of stuff in our programming. And I want to start teaching you guys a bit more about them. I'm not going to teach you guys how to take in multiple word strings quite yet. We don't really need to do that quite yet. It's still a little further out. But what I am going to show you guys is how to deal with strings. Strings of numbers and strings of letters. So let's assume that we have a string variable called myString. And we set that equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, there's a lot of problems with this. Number one, how do we get the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of this? What if we want this to be used in a math function? I can't simply go int a equals 100 and then do a plus my string equals something, So if I try that, it's not going to work. So what if I try something like system.out.println and I do my string plus a. And so this is sort of an interesting theory. Let's see what happens. The answer is, unfortunately, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 0, 0, which is both these strings. So this gets us to something I've been meaning to talk about called wrapper classes. And I don't mean like wrapper like 50 Cent. Does not equal wrapper. So wrapper classes are essentially where we take a number and instead of using an int, which is known as a primal, we use an integer. Let's do integer b equals, let's just leave it blank. Actually, let's just jump straight into what I was about to do. So what we're going to do here is we're going to, well, actually, you know what, let's make it an int. We can set it as an integer, but we don't need to, so let's just keep it as an int, and we'll do int b equals integer. And so this means that we're using the object class integer to parse int, which means that we're going to give it a string that has an int inside of it that we want it to get out, or meaning that this whole string has nothing but an integer inside. If there's anything else in there, it's really going to screw things up. So then we're going to pass in my string as an argument. And so we're going to run this, then we'll do a system.out.println, and we'll do b, the value of b is, and so then we'll do a plus b, and then we'll say plus, and the, needed a space there, and the value of a plus b is, and then again plus, we'll open up a new set of parentheses, a plus b, and close our statement with a semicolon. We'll run it, and this looks more like what we were expecting. So let's talk a little bit more about what happened here. Number one, we took an integer and we used integer.parsing, which is a method. We're going to get more into methods probably in about 2 episodes. So if you want to skip to that, you can probably skip up to 15. But most importantly is we have this function that allows us to parse an int. Now let's say if we want to parse a double. Can I just do parse double? The answer is no, because you can't parse a double using an integer. And so then you do double.parseDouble. And unfortunately it says, well, now you're trying to pass that to an int, and so if I do double b, it will now work. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. But now what's important is knowing the difference between double with this lowercase. So lowercases are always called primitives in this case. whereas uppercases, so double, will be known as a wrapper class. So the difference is, so let me do this. Let's do double C. I'm so running out of variables over here. Let's get rid of all of that. And we'll just have it equal the exact same thing. Okay, so here's the difference between the two. If I do C followed by a dot, you'll see that nothing comes up, because all C is a simple value. We can't do anything with it. There's no tests, there's no nothing. It is simply a letter that means a number. However, if we do B dot, there are different methods here that we can perform. We can check to see if it's infinite. We can get an int value from it. We can, do all sorts of stuff here. We can set it different values. We can check to see if it's not a number. We can, parse a double from a string there. We can get the value of it. There's so much that we can do here. And all of these different things return different stuff. They return, in some cases, Boolean, in some cases doubles, in some cases different things. So that wrapper class allows us a lot of utility. Um, the last thing I want to go over, how am I doing on time? Oh, perfect. So the last thing I want to go over, sort of brushing that off to the side, I'll Control 7 comment that out. I want to talk just quickly about how you guys might start using strings. I don't know how I got a breakpoint there, but I did. And strings are very important. So let's say we have a string, and we'll talk more about where we're going to be getting strings from. They don't just magically appear places. But let's say we have a string called QBF, and that's going to equal the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. I think that's the one that has all the letters in the English alphabet. Yeah, it looks right. Anyways, so that string QBF, let's say that we wanted to have an if statement, right? That looked at whether or not the word quick was in that statement. Now, we know by looking at it that, of course, there's the word quick right here. But how do we tell the Java compiler, hey, if the word quick is in there, do something? So obviously we need an if statement, and we'll say system.out.println, and we'll say word quick found. Else, and we'll do the same thing, word quick and not found. So how do we do this? And the answer is contains. So what we're going to do is we're going to do QBF, but instead of jumping right into .contains, I want to show you guys that there's a lot of other functions here. There's equals ignore case, contains, content equals. There's a lot of these. So, you guys can look through these. I don't think too many of these are going to be excellent for you, but some of them that should jump out are maybe replace all, to lowercase is really useful. Equals ignore case is very useful. Trim, very useful. Split is extremely useful. So just take a look through these when you hit QBF dot, and sort of get a good sort of feel as to what's there. If any of them look really interesting, but you can't quite glean how to use them, definitely Google it, because there's a lot of utility in the string class in Java that isn't there in C++. It's probably the biggest single difference between the two languages, aside from memory management, of course. Okay, so we're going to do a dot contains, and then we're going to do an open parenthesis, and we're just going to say quick. just like that. And so we're going to run it. So the word quick was found. And so what if we do quicks instead? And immediately it goes to not found. So this type of wrapper class and using methods of different classes is something that is going to give us an extremely large amount of power going forward. It's going to let us use our programs to search for things. It's going to let us quickly produce programs that are capable of handling large pieces of data automatically. And so that's very important that you guys get used to sort of this dot notation, meaning that we're calling a class, or calling a method rather. And it's also very important that you guys sort of start learning how to invoke these methods as well. So I hope that you guys will take some time and play around with this source code. My name is Damien. This is Beginner's Java. I hope that you've enjoyed this lesson. Happy holidays, and I'll see you next time. Any questions, post them down below. Have a good one.